guys? Thank you for joining me on the Social Work Race podcast. Please share, please subscribe. This is helpful to me, and I'm sure it's going to be helpful to you as we work through these topics that are not often spoken about, focused in on the frontline workers, that's yourself, to understand the world that we're working in and the people that we're trying to support, whilst actually helping ourselves and informing ourselves of a better way to live, how to navigate this challenging world. I'm thanking you for joining because this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. And today, I wanted to talk to you about something I've just about prepared. I've just about prepared, but I'm getting it out there because it's here to be done. And if you want to know more on the topic, let me know. If you think I haven't covered it enough, let me know. We'll go in again. But this is the thing. This is a tricky topic. And I think I'm gonna entitle it, What About the Diet? What about the diet? Because we rely heavily on the medical model for support and diagnosis and guidance. In fact, I think we pretty much rely on it completely. That is when the GP or the pharmaceutical industry says this is what we need to do to help a young person. If you're working in adolescent or child field, child protection, child in need, even children with disabilities, we're relying heavily on the medical model to help us find solutions. And to be fair, some of it doesn't sit right with me. I guess because I think that we are more than, and I think when you do your research on the medical approach in psychology and sociology, you will find many flaws, I guess, areas of critique, because on one hand, that's what everyone's working with. And on the other hand, we find that there are many gaps in the medical approach. And it's fair to say that humans are more than what you can see with the eyes. The concern is, for example, that some people say, look, we are also spiritual, and you can't put spirituality in a test tube. Then there are some people that say that actually there is other elements, such as emotional, which the medical model tries to deal with, but it doesn't always do that so effectively. Then there's the behavioral, the inherited aspects of it all, the social elements of it all, the psychodynamic, that's looking in the past. We try to cure everything with a drug and a medical diagnosis, and something about it doesn't sit right with me, because I think that humans are made up of so many elements. And to simply look at the drug element, when you're working with a young person and the question is asked, are they taking their medication? That's their behavioral correction medication to help them manage their behavior more, which often really has negative side effects. I have some young people that just will not take it because it makes them feel sick. But, keep taking it and you should get used to it, or we'll lower the dose or change the medication. I don't want to take medication. You can't really say, and this is another flaw with the medical approach, you can't really say, their behavior is an effect of their trauma or from their past, but let's give them a drug to manage their behavior. Something about it that doesn't add up. And there's no doubt that drugs work in a sense, but they are certainly often not the answer in such cases. Humans are a lot more than blood and chemicals, just like pharmaceuticals, which is just a concoction of chemicals that have been devised to find solutions. It can't always work for everybody, And so the topic today is, what about diet, nutrition? We're trapped in a medical model of support, and it's fair for us to look at other elements as well. I am sure, though, that unless you go private, there isn't a local authority that is really going to provide you with an outlet to support that. And to be fair, all of our energy and research has gone into understanding how pharmaceuticals work with the body. And just as complex as that actually is, we haven't put any real energy into say, look, we actually need to get a nutritionist on board. I'm going to give you an example. I'm working with someone who's on a young person on an autistic spectrum, and I said he's taken a lot of time off school because he's not well, gets sick, gets headaches. And I thought, let me explore this with him, because the doctors will give him headache tablets and anti-nausea tablets, but is that the answer? That is symptom management, but it's not managing the cause. What's that about? Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't need to be a doctor for what I'm about to say, but it's worth me exploring with a young person, seeing as I'm the only one they talk to explore if there's any factors that I can identify that might be causing some of that. So I'm not trying to diagnose. I'm just trying to see if there's anything that I can get my hands on with a young person, help them identify what's up. And interestingly, one day, the young person, they ran to school, and it was a warm day, and he had a headache. So he came in, had a headache, and he went back home. And I said, what did you have to eat in the morning? Did you have breakfast? Had 2 slices of toast. Okay. Did you drink anything? No. When was the last time you had a drink of water? Couldn't remember. Hadn't drunk the day before, hadn't drunk that day. He had run, 10-minute run to school. Dehydrated, out of breath, sweating. Now his head hurts. Do you see what I'm saying? So I said to him, well, drink water. I said, are you thirsty right now? And he says, actually, I am. So I asked the teacher, can you go and get him a glass of water? Drank that down. I said, you need another one? Yes, please. Knock that back. We have somewhere to start, because if you don't drink water, you're actually not doing yourself any good. And people who often don't drink water tend to get headaches, right? It's just dehydration. Have I diagnosed him? Not really. I'm just offering a way forward. I'm just helping him to adjust his lifestyle to support his well-being, his physical well-being. I worked in a school where we actually banned soft drinks. Why? Because we saw changes in the young people's behavior when they were drinking what we know to be energy drinks. We'll come back to that point in a moment, but I want to read just through a study I have here. It says, up to 1 in 3 children are consuming caffeinated energy drinks linked to behavioral changes. Yeah. And I noticed this a few years ago, and it's probably even more so now. Energy drinks are quite cheap now. When Red Bull came on the scene, it was, and it still is, reasonably priced. But when it came out, it was a bit expensive. It was one of those drinks. It was a little bit exclusive. They could do that. But energy drinks have the branding, and other companies have come along, and they can be dirt cheap. And if you go to Tesco early or any large store in the morning around the school run time, 8 o'clock, 8:30, young people often they have to stop off at their local store to get their, you could say it's packed lunch, and they're grabbing chocolates, sweets, and an energy drink. And the energy drinks, some of these stores, can I call them out? Yeah, Tesco, for example, is one that I frequent in. They're selling their own version, and it's a litre bottle. And this is something they do every day. This is daily. Listen to what's happening. The young person is saying, I need energy. So they're obviously struggling with their energy. And so a government commission study, this is a study, an article, from 2022, February 2022, from Sky News, news.sky.com. Up to 1 in 3 children in the UK are consuming caffeinated energy drinks, which are linked to behavioral changes, a study finds. This is a government commission study. Let's read some of it. The government commission study found that many under 18s enjoy the caffeinated drinks, with some having them at least 5 days a week. So caffeine is one thing, but it's also the other chemicals in there as well, which also we know affect behavior. The research was triggered after the government ran a consultation on banning the sale of energy drinks to children in 2018, but only 2 UK studies on the topic were available at the time. So they want studies to show this. And there are already studies in other countries that have banned the sale of energy drinks to children, but the UK still does. And the UK hasn't done that yet. They haven't banned them yet. Experts from the University of York and the University College London examined what type and how many energy drinks British children were consuming. They looked at any potential impact on the young people's physical and mental health and their behavior. And there was a number of outcomes, and one of them, it says here, one large UK study also found that around a quarter of teenagers aged 13 and 14 had one energy drink or more every week. Yep. I work with a lot of young people who are using these more than once a week. Separately, a study from Wales Health and Behaviour School in Children discovered that youngsters who consumed the drinks at least once a week were significantly more likely to report physical symptoms, including trouble sleeping, headaches, and stomach problems, than those who drank none. Overall results suggested that having the drink 5 or more days a week was linked to low psychological, physical, educational, and overall well-being. Now, I might like to suggest that the drinks themselves have a role to play, and maybe they are the cause of a lot of these symptoms. However, remember, this is me now. It might be a sign that the young people who drink these drinks, their overall lifestyle might also be contributing to these symptoms that they're finding. I read another study shortly ago. These drinks are consumed even more so by children in the north of England, the Midlands upwards. Experts also found that boys drank more than girls, while consuming energy drinks was associated with more headaches, sleep problems, alcohol use, smoking, irritability, and being excluded from school. So we have enough information to know that actually, this is a problem. Okay? And what we are relying on here, and there are many studies to show this, you just go on Google. I wish I could just, read some out to you, but I don't think I need to. There are various reasons why we are relying heavily on the medical model, which is medication-based more often, to manage these symptoms when they do not manage the causes. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the contentions with the medical approach, is that it manages symptoms. And in my opinion, when you only manage symptoms, you often can mask what the problem is. Okay? And the problem persists. And if it persists, you may need more medication, or you may just never really deal with the problem. Now, I know we as social workers, we like to get to the bottom of things. But when a young person is taking their medication and their behavior has been altered, if it's for ADHD, for example, hyperactivity, in my opinion, what have we really done but stop that young person from reacting to their triggers? And their triggers can be very justified and very real. So it's always important, in my opinion, to look at the medical to question the work that we're doing. Okay. Looking at a study that was produced in, where's the date here? So looking at a study on pubmed.gov, it's entitled 2004. Wow. No, it was a while ago, but I think that we've always known about diet for thousands of years and the impact it has on the body and the mind. We can't just assume that a lack of nutrition is only going to affect the skin or your weight. I see the body as one. Your mind and your arms and your brain and your heart, they're all one. We see different symptoms, but when you have a lack of nutrition, it doesn't just affect the other parts outside of the brain, it affects the brain as well. And so we've seen in that previous article that artificial drinks full of things that are impacting the developing mind for children, if they can have a negative impact on children, then we sure can assume, can we not, that nutrition can have a positive effect. Here we go. The effects of diet on behavior and cognition in children. So many studies have shown. Let me just read to you some of the abstract. It says diet can affect cognitive ability and behavior in children and adolescents. Nutrient composition and meal pattern can exert immediate or long-term beneficial or adverse effects. Beneficial effects mainly result from the correction of poor nutritional status. So, if you want to see improvements in someone's mental health, for example, correct the poor habits. How much we go into the habits, I'm not sure. For example, thiamine treatment reverses aggressiveness in thiamine deficient adolescents. Look at that. So how do we get thiamine in the diet? Well, you can at least start by going to Holland and Barrett, or just looking at the foods that it's found in and see if there's an improvement. But we know that it's not always just about the diet. There are social elements, environmental elements as well. But it's a good place to start. Do you know what I mean? Do we have to rely on medication to fix this problem? Or can we say, look at the nutritional elements? Here we go. Deleterious, that's dangerous behavioral effects have been suggested. For example, sucrose and additives were once suspected to induce hyperactivity, but these effects have not been confirmed by rigorous investigations. It's still in debate, fair enough. In spite of potent biological mechanisms that protect brain activity from disruption, some cognitive functions appear to be sensitive to the short-term variations of fuel. So, for example, if you don't eat properly or don't have a level of energy in the system, from energy-rich foods such as starch and carbs, which should eventually convert into glucose and then the body can use it for energy, then we know that there has a negative impact on certain parts of the brain. That's what that's saying. Interestingly, it says here, and this goes back to that whole thing when I said to the young person, are you drinking water? Which he wasn't at all. Scared me. He says, one aspect of diet that has elicited much research in young people is the intake or omission of breakfast. This has obvious relevance to school performance. Schools know this. And when schools find out that a young person is not eating breakfast, it is a red flag for them. Why? Because they've seen it with their own eyes over the decades. No breakfast affects their performance. It says here, while effects are inconsistent in well-nourished children, breakfast omission deteriorates mental performance in malnourished children. Now, malnourished children don't necessarily appear to be underweight all the time, or short or frail. They can look almost normal, but we're seeing more other signals in their face and their body language. That's where we're starting to see it. So you can have tall, malnourished young people. Even intelligence scores can be improved by micronutrient supplementation in children and adolescents with very poor dietary status. So it goes on to say, look, diet's important in short, and to understand the young person and their environment is also important, and when necessary we use medication. But we are dominated by the medical approach, and I think that social workers can ask parents and ask young people to address that aspect to show that we're working with them holistically. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot more controversy around the whole medical approach and why we're using that. I don't think we need to go into that now. I think what I'm really asking us to do is to question families and professionals deeper. Is there more we can do? Yeah, well, has your young person had a drink of water? I don't like veg. Well, let's see how else we can get it in. I had a young person, funny enough, very bright boy. He had a big tub of omega cod liver oil, and me and placing him in care, I said to him, "What have you got? What are you doing with that?" It must have had 1,000 capsules in there. It was a big one, 7 C's, right? He said, "Yeah, it helps me sleep," because he has problems sleeping. High cannabis user, uses energy drinks, problem sleeping. Wow. So I looked at this, and good fats, fat-based, fat-soluble vitamins, such as vitamin D, take them at night and they help you to sleep. It helps you to sleep. And one of the challenges we have with young people is that they don't like to sleep, or they don't sleep very well. Their body clock is upside down. So diet can be a thing that we can look at. And I wish that local authorities would invest in something a bit broader. It's not even just local authorities, but government as well. And after talking to you about this, it's helped me open my eyes to always take in my vitamins. So recently I ordered vitamin D3 and K. It's helpful. I noticed that when I'm low on vitamin D, I don't sleep very well. And obviously, being someone of dark skin, haven't had any sun in the last year and a half. The sun just come out recently. It's a warm day. I'm going to go and get some sunshine in a minute. And this helps me to sleep. And I noticed that in the summer, I sleep very well. And in winter, I don't. But if I was an adolescent and I had some environmental challenges and I wasn't sleeping very well, you're looking at, what you're looking at is me being tired in the day, frustrated at anyone telling me anything else other than how I feel, and a whole range of behavioral problems there, from their poor performance in school, a lot of questions, and in my last podcast looking at the labels that are going to be put on me, whereas I just need a dietary routine. And that's always a challenge for young people, but this is something we have to try. Anyway, so as I'm looking after myself, please look after yourself and the people you're working with. Have a good summer.